Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
Alyeska Pipeline Service Company, fueling philanthropic programs and dedicated to creating educational and professional opportunities for Alaska Native people.
The National Weather Service.
Good evening and welcome again to Saturday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting tonight's show. Again, the show times for Alaska Weather, 5:30 p.m. for APB, ARCS, and all week now, 5:30 p.m. for KUAC. They're 9.4 up in the interior, and 360 North never changed at all, still at 7:30 p.m. and Alaska Public Media, 5 a.m. the next morning. And the forecast is also on the web by 8 p.m. on YouTube. Moving on to satellite imagery, out to the west here, not a lot going on, just some few clouds out there across the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. Got a system up here to the northwest coming across Russia that's pulling in south or east and southeast into the northwest Bering Sea. Otherwise, not a bad day here. Showers coming across the Alaska Peninsula and Bristol Bay, followed by a few breaks. But eastern Aleutians on out to the west. Pretty nice day today. A lot of clouds here over the interior with showers scattered around anywhere from a tenth or a few hundredths to a tenth of an inch to, in some cases, up to a quarter of an inch falling today in these showers. And another system brought rain. Another pretty good shot of rain, nothing too terribly heavy, but made for a wet Saturday there across all of the southeast coast, and a little bit of a disturbance forming here. So that resulted in small craft advisories there along the coast. And up to the northwest, kind of hard to pick out, but you can see the clouds coming down toward the coast there. And that brought some light snow this afternoon, some areas of fog from roughly about Point Lay. Not quite making it to Wainwright. Point Lay back down towards Point Hope and Kotzebue. Locally gusty winds there. Point Hope had gusts up to about 32 miles an hour briefly this afternoon. They fell back down at about 25 miles an hour at Kivalina, and that was about it. Otherwise, showers dropping southward across the Seward Peninsula today and into Norton Sound, and coming down, clouds, scattered showers across the southwest interior. Also North Gulf Coast here, showery conditions, and then you head east, that developed into a general rain across the Panhandle. Scattered showers across south central Alaska, Susitna Valley, but some breaks there over the central Copper River Basin, as well as about northway, right along the eastern interior there. A lot more though over in Canada. And on the chart today, again, some thunderstorm activity, kind of diminishing and tapering off later or during the afternoon today, but still going overnight last night and into today here. Prince William Sound, not quite as extensive as it was, locally into the southeast interior, and some of that got over east of Yakutat this afternoon with the batch of moisture coming northward. Rainfall amounts ranged from, well, Yakutat picked up another 0.8 of an inch today, while Petersburg had 3/4 of an inch, and heaviest occurred at Shelter Cove, there northwest or north of Ketchikan, farther on down to the south. They measured about 1.5 inches, again during a 12-hour period, ending at mid-afternoon today. But that's going to move on through, more moisture down there to the south with the clouds gathering and that next system. So after a break tonight, you'll be looking at some more rain moving in tomorrow, mostly over the southern areas there. Very weak low here over south central Alaska, Cook Inlet, so mostly cloudy skies, scattered showers. A trough brought some isolated showers all the way down to the Alaska Peninsula into Bristol Bay, and again right up over the southwest interior. Pretty dry though. northeast part of the state, Tanana Valley, all the way up to the eastern Arctic coast, and that little bit of snow occurring there along the western Arctic coast. Otherwise, higher pressure, dry conditions, light winds, not too bad here on the winds across the eastern Bering Sea, and then that next front driving eastward there into the northwest Bering Sea. And for tonight, that moves to a position something like this by about 3 or 4 a.m. tomorrow morning. Otherwise, rain spreading down with the warm front into the western Aleutians, not quite making it to Adak or Atka, with fair conditions out in advance, some clearing periods. Drier here along the western interior areas, just some isolated showers left over for Bristol Bay as the trough pulls eastward. Low pressure over the Kenai Peninsula, mostly cloudy, scattered showers, North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, south central Alaska, right up the eastern interior here, and also off to the east. Look for, that's mostly going to be snow showers or areas of light snow here. Not sure why I made that pink. Anyway, drying out to the west, and still a little bit of moisture there along the northwest coast. Otherwise, the Panhandle, again, that moisture shifts off into Canada, the rain, so that'll change over to some scattered showers persisting through the night tonight. And then it looks like about midday tomorrow, more moisture sliding up here across the southern Panhandle with that warm front there and that system. Scattered showers up to the north. So a lot less rain tomorrow than what you saw today, but tending to increase again and spread up possibly as far north as Port Alexander there, and then on to the east over towards Stewart and Hyder tomorrow afternoon. Otherwise, look for possibly a partly sunny day around Yakutat. Low pressure here right over western Prince William Sound. Numerous showers from northern Cook Inlet right across the area there to Valdez, Cordova, definitely Whittier. Showers across the Copper River Basin. Drier conditions, southern Cook Inlet, Homer, Seldovia. On down across Kodiak Island, could see some sunshine tomorrow at times, as well as Bristol Bay and fair swath of the western interior here, right up to the western North Slope. Still have a trough hanging just off the coast there, so that'll keep a threat of some light precipitation. Very light precipitation on the western Arctic coast there. Again, probably staying west and southwest of Wainwright, so the eastern areas here probably dry, just some isolated snow showers possible over the eastern North Slope. And then that storm coming across the Bering Sea kicks the winds up in advance of it, small craft advisories and rain approaching the coast tomorrow afternoon right along the coast there, but definitely into St. Lawrence Island, down to Nunivak Island, and on back to the Pribilofs there with small craft advisories, rain and fog. But pretty nice here for the Aleutians, Adak, Atka, Nikolsky, Unalaska, and those locations. Even the Alaska Peninsula, just some clouds, light winds, possible sunshine. But for Monday, different story. That system drops southeastward instead of moving on in. Drops across Bristol Bay tomorrow night, Sunday night, and so the rain late tomorrow night and Monday morning here will begin to change over to showers to the peninsula and begin to end over Bristol Bay as the low center pulls off to the south. Kodiak Island looks kind of wet on Monday, but south central Alaska, I'll go mostly sunny. North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, much of the interior looks just variably cloudy, partly to mostly sunny. Maybe some isolated showers, eastern Alaska range. Southeast coast here, that system moves off to the east to a configuration something like this. So that puts you right in a dry area with some clearing at about midday Monday into the afternoon. Really just a few showers off the coast there. And the next system will be pushing eastward Monday night and into Tuesday. And for temperatures across the Panhandle this afternoon, upper 40s to mid 50s, 55 at Ketchikan with a 54 at Klawock. Sitka checked in with 52 today. Juneau 48, that same temperature matched at Yakutat and Valdez, but Cordova up to 51. Lower to mid 50s here for the Kenai Peninsula and the Susitna Valley. Also for Kodiak Island, pretty uniform temperatures. McCarthy up to 54. Lower 50s there, Northway, Delta, just 48 at Fairbanks. A little cooler over at Tanana, 43, 45 there at McGrath. Up to the north, kind of a contrast there across the upper Yukon Valley to Bettles, 50 at Fort Yukon. And then 40 there, Anaktuvik 32 this afternoon, Arctic Village 36, and the North Slope Arctic Coast all in the 30s this afternoon, right down there to Kivalina where they reported some snow today. Kotzebue 40 degrees. That matched also at Wales with Nome 41. Again, showers pushing southward across that area today. 45 at AKwx. Otherwise, lower to mid 40s there across the Yukon and Kuskokwim Delta areas. 39 there at Savunga. Near 50 today across the Pribilos with 48 St. George. Lower to mid 50s for the central Aleutian areas on out to Shemya. And also lower 50s, pretty uniform temperatures here for the Alaska Peninsula on up into Bristol Bay. Lows for tonight, 40s, mid 40s, mid to upper here for the southeast coast, and upper 30s to lower 40s, southern Alaska, a little cooler in the Copper River Basin. Some areas here over the eastern interior might drop shade below the frost point tonight. More so up here over the North Slope into the lower 20s. Arctic coast though holding in the lower 30s up there. Some cases mid 30s at Kaktovik. Same thing here for the northwest areas, Kotzebue and Shishmaref. 37 there for Gamble. Lower to mid 30s here for the southwest interior, but near 40 along the coast. Lower 40s for the Alaska Peninsula and the Aleutians. Highs for tomorrow, 30s, North Slope Arctic coast and down into the Kobuk Valley with 40s across the central interior, lower 50s south of the Alaska Range, also in toward Bristol Bay and the Aleutians, mid 50s for the Panhandle. Flying weather tomorrow morning, VFR here in the west, VFR in the east, and some lower conditions here in between from the Alaska Range. Looks like Talkeetna Mountains with some IFR up here toward the Brooks Range. Marginal VFR along the North Gulf Coast and tapering off there just over the eastern or toward the border there for the Panhandle. Got some IFR in the western Arctic coast with that trough hanging just offshore, and also from St. Lawrence Island down into the west central Bering Sea, but some pretty good VFR conditions for the Aleutians on into Bristol Bay. And that holds through tomorrow, but this whole thing advances as that storm comes across the northern Bering Sea. So look for IFR to show up southwest coast of the Seward Peninsula there over to about Nome, on down the coastline, Nunivak Island for sure, spreading into Kuskokwim Bay during the afternoon. St. Paul socked in with the IFR, VFR front Alaska, all the way over to Kodiak Island, marginal VFR Prince William Sound, North Gulf Coast to about Yakutat, and then kind of angling up into the eastern Tanana Valley areas, 40-mile country from the Alaska Range northward. And looking at passes, Anaktuvik and Adigan, both back to VFR conditions tomorrow. Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR. Rainy, VFR as well. Windy, though, looks a little marginal, as does Isabel, but Mentasta, VFR in the forecast. And for Tanita, marginal VFR at times. Portage, VFR and with some more moisture coming in, deteriorating to IFR at some point in the day, probably in the afternoon, if not sooner. And for Chilkoot and White, VFR. Freezing levels at the surface here with a trough here, colder air coming southward, 2,000 feet right down to about roughly Bethel, back out toward Bakoriak, up to St. Lawrence Island at the surface here, down into the Yukon Delta, and then off to the northeast, 8,000 feet here across the southeast coast, and about the same out here over the western Bering Sea and the Aleutians. So looking at the icing chart for tomorrow, areas of mixed icing here in the shaded areas above about 4,000 feet, nothing too serious. And then some rime icing with the system pushing eastward, approaching the coast tomorrow afternoon, extending northward here to Kivalina, Point Hope, and possibly Point Lay, back down across the Pribilos, but north of the Aleutians. And look for some icing possibilities to continue here for Prince William Sound, North Gulf Coast, and then more moisture spreading into the southern southeast coast. Jet stream, westerly 70 to 100 knots across the Bering Sea with that system coming into that area. Otherwise, pretty kind of a split flow here. This area dropping off to the southeast, but south to north, right across the Panhandle tomorrow, about 120. 9,000 foot winds, southwesterlies 25 to 30 knots there, coming onto the Yukon Delta coast, then northward to the Bering Strait. Light winds over the interior, light winds for the Panhandle. Bering Sea, central and southern areas, west 25 to 30, lighter for the Aleutians. Same pattern at 9,000 feet, light winds for the Panhandle, North Gulf Coast, all of the interior areas. 20 knots here, and then south 25 to 30 as that system comes advancing eastward, and westerlies at about the same speed off to the south. Turbulence-wise, nothing too bad. Occasional moderate chop, or light to isolated moderate chop here from the Pribilofs, northward to the Bering Strait and along the western Arctic coast, and Kivalina on out to Point Hope. And after the break, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecasts.
People come from all over the world, and they just can't believe when they round the corner up here on a busy Wednesday or Thursday and see 10 to 13 of them in a row. You know, it's quite a sight to see. It's really the crossroads of the world. You can go from Anchorage to Frankfurt, Germany, in typically 8 to 9 hours. And in Asia, you can be in Hong Kong, or you can be in Tokyo, or you can be in Seoul in 8 to 9 hours using Anchorage as an international gateway. It's the perfect spot for cargo operations to come in. The two aircraft arrived. They're doing a cargo transload. We have just a specific amount of time to make sure that the cargo gets on the other aircraft and we get it out of here. It's not uncommon for us to handle as many as 46 airplanes in a day, and it is one of the busiest cargo airports in the world. I think if you were to narrow it down to, you know, what is probably the biggest commodity, well, I would have to say it's probably consumer electronics, yeah, especially the iPhones, the iPads, things of that nature that are coming out of the factories in Asia into North America to hit the retail stores. That's a big item. I've kind of grown up in aviation. I've had an uncle that had a helicopter and flying business called Kenai Air Alaska down in Kenai. He started way back in the early 50s hauling drill bits, and I was a gas boy. So I filled up Super Cubs and helicopters, and you know, kind of grew up around the business. We've basically seen it all. Cars coming from BMW, from Mercedes-Benz, and these are basically top secret. They are hush-hush. They are not even on the market. And they come in and then they're tested in different parts of Alaska for cold weather testing. We've hauled large pieces of oil industry equipment. We've seen sharks, we've seen whales, we've seen everything. But the kitchen sink. There are so many international carriers that serve Anchorage, giving you a whole different perspective on what lies just 8 or 9 hours away. And in many cases, there is a lot of cross-cultural exchange in Anchorage that allows all of us to experience other parts of the world. And I think because of that, we grow richer as a community. And it definitely has a positive impact on me, and we're in a unique advantage that we get to see this.
Well, you have to love boats, and you have to love water, and you have to love Alaska, and you have to be a good boat operator, and you have to like it, and then you have to like people. So there's a number of factors that go into what makes up a water taxi operator. My name's Mako Haggerty. That's Mako like taco.
Good morning. What's going on? Yeah, good, yeah.
I live here in Homer, Alaska. I've lived here since 1982. That's 32 years. I came up here, I was a commercial fisherman, and then I got into water taxiing here in Kachemak Bay in 1996. and I've been doing the water taxi ever since. There's no such thing as a typical day, and there's no such thing as a typical day in commercial fishing, and there's no such thing as a typical day in water taxi, which is why becoming a water taxi operator was so easy for me and difficult for others, is because it's not a 9-to-5 job. A lot of people aren't mariners, so they don't understand why maybe I would do this all the time. Maybe only pick the nice days. But I actually like being out there on the rough days too. It's challenging, exciting, and fun. If you're just running a boat on flat, calm water all the time, that can be maybe a little bit boring. So every condition out there on the water I find to be enjoyable. I guess in the back of our mind there's always danger, but I guess something could always happen. It's not something we focus on. I wanted to be a service to the people that live here, and that's basically, I think, what we've become. There's only 2 ways across the bay. One's by boat and one's by air. And if they can't fly into places like Seldovia, then the water taxi is the next alternative. There are people that are afraid of flying. There are people that have a lot of gear. Planes don't go everywhere. In fact, airplanes and even float planes are fairly limited in some of the places that they can access, and boats can access more places. We can pack more gear. And then of course there's the people that would rather take a boat than fly in a plane. Of course I've got fears. In fact, I would say that probably running boats was facing one of my fears. You know, drowning is, yeah, I do. Yeah, I would say that it's a reoccurring dream, actually. I spend my entire life on the water, so that's probably just natural.
Thank you guys, it's been a pleasure.
During the summer, I'll take a lot of visitors across the bay to the park, and it'll be a bright, sunny summer day, and the water will be blue, and we might even see a whale crossing the bay, and people will come up to me and they'll tell me I have the best job ever. And I think that sometimes I do. But there are days that we go out there and we're battling the weather, the waves. We've got people on the other side of the bay that absolutely need to be picked up. So it's not a matter of choice whether or not we cross the bay. So sometimes I'll have people actually say, boy, your job sucks. Happiness is different for everybody, but yesterday I was out in the boat with some photographers, and the sun was out and the weather was really nice, and it was still winter, and we anchored up and got just some fantastic wildlife pictures there yesterday, and I realized there was no other place I'd rather be.
High pressure, so really light winds here across the entire southeast coast tomorrow. High center right in here somewhere, so light variable winds underneath the center there. East at 10, down on the south coast to south at 10, up to the north. Seas just 6 to 8 feet. And light variable winds here for the central and northern inside water areas with slight seas. Clarence Strait, southeast 15 in the forecast. And then for Monday, becoming west at about 20 there for Clarence Strait. Northwest 24-foot seas for Stevens Passage. And northerlies 15, otherwise northwest 15 to 20 out along the coast. Prince William Sound, light winds tomorrow out of the east. Small craft advisories here for Kamishak Bay. Otherwise light winds in all other zones. For Monday, light variable winds just about everywhere. West 15 here for the Barrens, and that's about it. So the Alaska Peninsula, west 15 to 20, northwest 20 knots, Bristol Bay on down southwest of Kodiak Island. And then for Monday, westerlies pick up a little bit. Small craft advisories 25 to 30 knots for the peninsula, southeast 20 Bristol Bay. Out in the Aleutians, small craft advisories west-southwest 20 to 25 knots from the eastern Aleutians all the way out to Chimie-Attu. And then for Monday, 30 knots, picks up a little bit there with another system approaching there for the far western Aleutians. Westerlies, 20 back to 25 to 30 for the Fox Islands. And for the southwest coast, south to southwest, 25 knots. Small craft advisories up to St. Lawrence Island, 30 knot winds in the forecast for the Pribilofs. And then those turn northwest and drop down a little bit to 25 knots, otherwise much lighter here for the southwest coast, northeast 20 for St. Lawrence Island. Up along the Arctic coast, central and west side, we've got southwest 20 knots, Wales to Cape Thompson, south 25 knots, and then lighter winds on the eastern coast. Then for Monday, northerlies here 10 to 20 knots, on that side, northwest 15 for the western Arctic coast, turning westerly here, then getting a little squirrely. But all these winds light for Monday with 3-foot seas. For tonight again, showers mainly over the central eastern interior from the Gulf of Alaska up to the north slope on the east side there. Rain changes to showers for the Panhandle, and the front pushing eastward across the Bering Sea brings rain and an increase in the winds. Nothing too bad there to the coast tomorrow afternoon. Fair over the interior, still some showers here, south central Alaska, North Gulf Coast, more rain spreading into the southern Panhandle. And have a great evening.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX Brief for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Alaska Public Media is pleased to present AK Passport, our new on-demand access portal for watching exclusive television programs. A members-only benefit, AK Passport offers an expanded library of shows such as Downton Abbey, Nova, and Rick Steves' Europe. Just go to pbs.org and look for the compass icon to activate AK Passport and watch your favorite PBS shows anytime, anywhere.
The faces you know, the news you rely on, anytime you want, anywhere you are.
I really value PBS's news coverage because I think it's very rigorous journalism.
Clear and concise reporting.
Both thoughtful